Hey guys, welcome back to the Patti Martin Real Estate Group YouTube channel. My name's Adam Wachtel, and we're joined again with Patti Martin for our August market update. Now, Patti, we're celebrating a big milestone in your career, aren't we?
Yep.
36 years in the business.
Who can believe it?
You've seen a few things in your day.
I have. I have indeed. I have indeed. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's why this is so important. So we have some context when we're talking about fluctuating markets. I think that's one of the things that people want to hear from. They want the experience behind them, but they want to know, how do we come through this and get through this and end up on a good position on the other side. So we're going to jump right into it, unless you have something to say.
Before you jump in, let me just mention that when I started in 1987, interest rates were 13.5%, and nobody seemed to mind.
But what was the price? What was the price?
It's all relative. People weren't making as much money either.
Yes, that is true. That is true. So the board has come out and said that higher borrowing costs have begun to permeate the Metro Vancouver housing market in predictable ways. So did we see a typical August slowdown, or have we seen a balancing of the market or a shift in the market? And that's what we're going to get into here. But what have you kind of seen out there through the month of August?
Do I think we have a balanced market yet? No, I don't. I think we still are too short of inventory, of good inventory. I mean, we just had a multiple offer today on a beautiful home where we had 5 offers. So that's still not balanced, in my opinion. But I also did an evaluation today on another house, and when I used a larger geographical area to compare to, there were, of the 26 listings, only 6 of them had sold in the last 3 months, and the rest were still active. So, it's
but only 26 listings, and we'll kind of circle back to that when we look at some of the numbers, and that'll be a very good point to make. Throughout the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver, residential home sales totaled just under 2,300 for the month of August 2023. So this is a 21% increase from August 2022, despite borrowing costs being drastically different. But it's still 14% below the 10-year seasonal average. So borrowing costs in August 2022 were 2.5%, and today they are 5%.
Yeah.
So more people are still willing to buy a house today at 5% than they were when interest rates really started to pick up in the beginning. Digging a little bit deeper into this is the interesting thing that I noticed. Sales have been declining since May. So if we look at May, there was just under 3,400 sales. June was 2,900, July 2,400, August, here we are at 2,300. So there's been a drop in sales from May to August, negative 32%.
And some of it could be summer.
Some of it could be summer. Well, this is where you can look at stats. So compared to a year ago, sales are up 21%. Compared to a few months ago, relative, the numbers are down substantially.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's still busier than I would have thought it would be. I think there's still a few buyers out there that would like to buy and can't find what they want. We certainly have our share of them.
Yeah, now that we're a few days into September, I think we can confidently say that, the heat was kind of taken out of the market a little bit in August, and then come that first week that people are kind of back into school, it seems to be full steam ahead again.
Could be.
Could be. We'll see what happens again in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
But this is our experience.
The chart is going this way, though, right? So the number of listings is going this way, and the number of sales is going this way. So it's very subtle. It's very subtle. So who knows? We'll find out in the next few months. Certainly the prediction is that due to the higher interest rates, that some of the property sales will start to stall. because there won't be enough buyers to be able to afford it. And again, the prediction is that the rate will come down in late 2024. So, there's that saying, marry the house, date the rate, date the rate or something. What is the saying? Anyway, it's just basically like get the house you want, worry about the rate later, because that's such an easy thing to change if you stay.
Yeah, it's easier to refinance
I'm sure I messed
than
up.
it is. Yeah, it's easier. It's easier to refinance the house. So marry the house and date the rate.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is right. You had it right. It's marry the house, date the rate. When we were looking at new properties newly listed to the MLS, there were 3,943 properties newly listed. It's all property types newly listed on the MLS in Metro Vancouver for August 2023. This is an 18% increase compared to August 2022. So more people are now putting their house on the market, but it's still 5% below the 10-year seasonal average. So we're getting closer to seasonal averages when it comes to typical market activity, typical new listings coming to the market. But again, this is the interesting thing. New listings coming onto the market are dropping since May. So since our spring market. So in May, there was 5,600 and change new listings. June 5,300, July 4,600, August 3,946.
Again, though, that's
So
a stat that, how many people are away in August and not
well,
thinking.
that's just it. So what it's showing you though is seasonality, and it's showing you the typical market trend. So if you go from a spring high where there's a lot of activity going into spring, summer we always see a cool down, fall we always see a pickup. So yes, right now, despite the high interest rates and some oddities in our market, it still seems to be following traditional trends of spikes in the spring, declines in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting.
It is interesting. It is.
The total number,
This
sorry,
month will be telling. This month will be telling. Like
yeah,
September will definitely show us where we're going,
correct.
because this is the time where people settle down, start to think about. Um, Even today in the evaluation that I did, the client said, "Well, if we don't do it now, we'll be too late,
When?
and we'll have to wait till spring." So, yeah.
When we're looking at the total amount of inventory on the MLS, there's 10,082 listings, which is only a 0.2% decrease compared to August 2022. So total amount of listings is the same as last year, but this is the key figure. It's 13% below the 10-year seasonal average, which is about 11,647.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we're still trending light on total inventory.
We are. Yeah, we surely are. Yeah.
And that's where we see the heat in the market. Like we still have low supply for the amount of buyers.
Yeah,
When we
getting 5 offers on a house
Yeah,
if there's lots of supply. You're not.
right. So this is where I keep pulling back and going on what's happening in the spring and what's happening at the end of summer. So in May we had 9,229 listings on the MLS. In August we're at 10,100, call it. So we're actually increased our listings by only 9% in about 4 or 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a sharp decline in sales. We do have a sharp decline in new listings coming to market. The offset of those is actually allowing some inventory to stay on the market, and we have now an increase of 9% in inventory.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because of course it starts to build up.
So then that brings us to sales to active listing ratios. And we know that when ratios are above 20%, it's typically leaning towards the seller's favor, and we could potentially see upwards pressure on pricing. Anything below about 15% is the opposite. It kind of tends towards the buyers, and you can probably see some downward pressure on pricing. So for detached properties, we are sitting at about 14.2% sales to active listing ratios for detached properties in August 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Townhomes are 30.3% and apartments are 31.8%. 9%. So the bulk of the market,
It's in the low,
townhomes and condos.
yeah, and it's the lower end. I bet
It's
it.
lower.
I bet in price it's the lower end of the market. Like if you parse that out, it wouldn't be a high end townhouse. It would be a mid price townhouse because we still see
Correct.
it. Like anything around $1 million in Richmond right now, is still getting tons of activity.
Yeah,
If you're at 1.7 or 8 in a townhouse, not so much.
correct. So very price driven, especially when we're talking about people taking on the debt at 5%. It it makes a significant impact in your borrowing power. Again, this is where I find it very interesting. So in May, detached sales to active listing ratio was 27%. We are now down at 14%. So that's a negative change of 48%, negative 25%.
Yeah,
And similar with condos, in May, it was 44% of condos sales to active listing ratio. And now in August, it's 0.33. So again, another drop of 25%.
interesting.
So we come back to this. Was August a typical summer slowdown, people taking a break? Now that we're a week or so into September, are we seeing it pick up again? Where do we see it kind of going from here?
And I would tell you that August wasn't terribly typical. It was slightly typical, but there was still a fair amount of activity. Like we were pretty busy in August.
We
And
were, absolutely.
and so if we look at the start of September, it's there's not as much interest that I see in listing right now. That's where we're not seeing it. But if you do list something that's really good, you are still seeing multiple offers. And if it's not really good, it's sitting and not doing
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. So if it's not a nice house, if it's not priced appropriately, and I'm not saying low, but if it's not priced competitively, it's probably going to sit on the market for a little while. But that's an interesting comment that you make, that there's not a huge push to list. I've seen a lot of recycled inventory,
Yes.
that's for sure.
Yes.
But if people aren't listing and there's more competition for buyers, I think we could see a swing where the sales to active listing ratio starts to pick back up.
It's hard to
Could we
say.
not?
We could, but it's too early in September to call it because
Of
kids
course.
go back to school. There's a lot of distractions as people come back to work, and all sorts of different things come
Yeah,
up.
kids' activities start, and people are still distracted for a little while. I completely get it.
Kids like just think about it. Kids are trying out for rep teams right now. That's very serious stuff. They're
You
not
don't have time to search for a home.
there's no houses looking. No, no, no. Yeah.
Normally, what we like to do when we end off our little YouTube video is saying, what should we do if you're a buyer or a seller? But I think our tune here is still the same thing, that now is the time to get your home on the market. And if you're buying, you find a house that you really like, that you can afford, that you can grow into, get it, because there's not a lot there. So I think our message has been very consistent for the past few months, and I don't think that's changing this month. Would you agree, Patti?
I do agree right now. Yes. Yeah. I'd like to see the end of September stats before I say anything different.
Perfect. So next month will be a very interesting.
I am paying attention to um like just the micro day, right? So in other words, today, for instance, the 2 days of listings, of new listings, and this is just Richmond, there was like 69 new listings. There was only 14 sales.
Yeah, I've
So
noticed that too.
that will start to build up. If that continues, this is going to change, yeah, significantly.
Yeah, that's why September will be an interesting month for the stats. So I wanted to change this up when we end the vlog, and let's have some fun with it. So if somebody gave you $500,000, that's up to $1 million. If somebody gave you $1 million, Patti, what do you think you'd do with that in real estate? Where would you go? What would you buy? What would you invest in? Principal residence, investment property? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, no, I think right now I would buy, with that $1 million, I'd buy a couple of maybe 3 or 4 rental units because it's so easy to rent right now because of the new laws. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think about, Adam, I think about a few things I've had to sell, as my daughter transitioned and I had to sell because we couldn't rent. And if that law had been in place, I would have never sold those properties, right?
Yeah,
So,
you mean the changing of the provincial rental bylaw. Yeah.
yeah, because if you can put a tenant in there and it's paying a good rent, which they are right now, just leave it. Because when I started 36 years ago, the prices were significantly different.
They were, and that goes to show you. Right now, I think the big trend in real estate is flipping is over. Like it's too
Yeah,
much of an up and down market. Like it's way too risky.
yeah.
But real estate, it seems to me that it's gone back to the old adage of buy it and hold it.
Well, it's the long game, and it always has been.
Yeah.
It's just, circumstances made it really easy to do that quick turnover, but that can't sustain itself in,
No, people essentially got lucky.
yeah,
They can be smart, right? You can be smart, but
yeah,
you also get lucky.
yeah, yeah. And whether that, like, oh, it's so funny because I was looking at Steveston today, and remember I've been telling you guys like Steveston seems weird to me because it had too much of a jump in price in relation to the rest of the community. And it seemed to me, just looking at this, what was going on, that it's almost starting to level out. It's
Hmm.
interesting. Yeah, it was cool. So yeah, we don't know, but we do know that it's a great investment for the long term. And I
Yes.
always tell people, you're always buying real estate for 5 to 7 years. Do not be thinking about the 2 year flip. If it happens and you get lucky, that's great, but always think long term.
Sound advice. I think that's a good place to stop. I
Yeah.
think it's a lot of good information for our clients. So thank you very much, guys, for tuning in to today's market update. If you want to get in touch with Patty or myself, our contact information, email addresses are in the description below. We'd love to chat.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Patty.